And so we're back for the FPL portion of the Cheap Seats. This is the Fantasy League portion of the show, your weekly Fantasy Premier League show, where Dean and AB, who are pretty much probably top 100 in the world, can tell you what they're doing with their squad detail, with their squads, the captaincy, the picks, and all of those things. And I just come in with my random picks because I'm like 1 million, whatever it is, and counting with a little bit of change. And this is an interesting week. It's game week 32. Spurs play twice. And Crystal Palace doesn't play, so all the Tyreek Mitchell owners, if you still have Tyreek Mitchell like me, make sure he's like the last player on your bench. Game week 32 window closes tomorrow evening. Spurs play on Friday night against Everton, so that's the first game. So remember, Friday is the deadline. So you've been warned, you've been noted, you've been told. So now, gents, how was game week 31?
Terrible. Absolutely shocking. I'm below average for the week. Finished 39, average was 41, and Dallas 17 points on the bench. I think that's the part that kills. Dallas 17 points on the bench. I was thinking, maybe I should take a 4-point hit and bring in Lingard for Souček. Didn't do it. Obviously, Lingard has a blinder. It's, everything. Literally, I was sitting on 30 points before that Everton-Brighton game, hoping that Ben White did something, and luckily he did. If it wasn't for Ben White, I would have been nowhere. So nothing but red arrows for me this week, unfortunately.
AB, how was your week?
So I was above average. I got 61 points, but Dallas on the bench again, 17 points. I'd be top of our log if it wasn't for him. And guess what? He's going to be on my bench this week as well because, that's what normal people do. He's playing against Liverpool.
Leeds plays Liverpool, yeah. Actually, I'd take a flyer. I'd take a flyer on straight Dallas. If the first game of the season is anything to go by, that's the reason why we all have Dallas in our teams. So, I had an okay week. I didn't get a 58. I didn't get a 39. I was I think about a 55 or something. But Stuart Dallas really came through. He was on my bench, but luckily for me, KDB didn't play. Ruben Diaz didn't play. So, hey, let's walk in. Stuart Dallas. So I was really, really lucky there to get through. I'm slowly moving up. I'm in 9th in the log. So that was pretty cool. So that's what it is. So this week, let's go through our picks. Everybody picked Kane as captain, so that's a surprise because Spurs played twice. Before we go in, is there an option for Son as captain if anybody has Son?
Yes.
100%. Well, definitely think so. Although you don't actually know if the man might burst into tears on the pitch if we play the way we were. So maybe stick with Kane. But I think any of those Spurs players, I think Kane and Son are obviously the top, and those are the guys that will play. But
who else would you captain at Spurs outside of the two? Real talk.
Reguilon wouldn't be a bad bet.
So you're assuming that
is he still mentally okay after Bruno megged him?
I mean, I don't think he actually cares. I don't think he's the smartest player in the world, so I don't think he knows even. But Davies and Doherty are both out, so default is Aurier and Reguilon will play. So you set on those.
Okay, so this week, AB's selection was as follows. So AB, you selected Rob Holding to be transferred in, which is I found that very wild. You're taking out Matt Target. It's going to be a very interesting question for you there. Lacazette's a differential, and your captain is Harry Kane. Why are you taking out Matt Target? A lot of people have Matt Target in their teams. Are you one of those guys who are like, let's sell early, Villa's season is done?
Yeah, 100% there. Villa are mid-table, their season's done. They're playing City, who
their fixtures are so bad.
Yeah, City are going to score 1 million, well, even one, and then Matt Target's useless. They're going to play West Brom. West Brom are fighting for survival. Everton are fighting for, what's that thing called? UEFA Champions League or Europa League. Then they got United, sorry. It's really bad. And then Spurs and Chelsea. So Villa are done. Grealish needs to leave. Villa are gone.
And then
Rob Holding
let's talk about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Rob
I don't
Holding
understand
is starting at Arsenal now. Okay, he's starting because you guys have no defenders left, and you're playing Fulham. So, like, come now. You should keep a clean sheet against Fulham.
Okay.
Yeah,
News to me.
Moving on.
that's literally it.
Let me tell you, we're playing Sheffield. And I sat there going, I have Leno in goals. I need the clean sheet because Aston Villa's out here losing games or conceding goals. And I literally had I had my heart in my mouth, just hoping that I could get those 6 points because those are the 6 points I needed to go from an average week to something of a semblance of a good week. So yeah, it's a little bit tough taking a bet on Arsenal, but yeah. And I see you've got Lacazette as a differential.
Yeah, so I don't have him because I only had one free transfer, so I had to take Target out because they're playing City. But I think Lacazette. So Lacazette is Arsenal's most owned FPL player, and he is owned by 8.3% of managers. So no one cares about Arsenal and FPL, which is why Lacazette is brilliant for FPL because the dude is like performing incredibly well. He's got 13 goals and 3 assists. For someone who's owned by 8% of players it's sacrilege, but with Arsenal's easy games coming up, it should be a very attractive differential.
Yeah, so I brought Lacazette into my team. So Arsenal have Fulham, Everton, Newcastle, West Brom before they play Chelsea, which are all winnable games, especially with the form that Everton's in. And then after the Chelsea game, they end the season with Crystal Palace and Brighton. So you can keep Lacazette in the side, especially with Aubameyang being the petulant little child that he is right now at Arsenal. So yeah, and obviously you captain Harry Kane because of the fact that he played 2 games. He's playing 2 games.
But I'm using the triple captain because I need something
to bring out
triple
the big
captain.
guns.
Last season I triple captained Harry Kane and it went amazingly because it was 3 times 0 because he missed.
Okay, so let's
go. I can't get worse than last season. I cannot get worse. I cannot get worse.
Okay, so let me go through my picks. So I brought in Lacazette. I felt when AB gave the prompt, I was like, actually, he could be the differential this week. I took out Richarlison because, quite frankly, I thought I'd keep him until the end. Richarlison hasn't done much for me. My differential this week, and this is what I'm pondering right now, is whether to bring Paul Pogba into the side. He's I think 8 point. He's quite cheap in the 8s, and also he's only owned by 1.5% of the people. But I don't know which poll's going to come out, and I think that's what every Manchester United supporter is trying to figure out. Captain Kane because he's playing twice. I think Spurs playing twice presents an opportunity for you to take advantage of that, unless if you believe Bruno and Salah and all the regular captaincy dudes are going to blow the lights out and like score a hat trick and everything else because that's like 60 points or 40 points. So that's what it was. I kind of felt like, you know what, end of the season, let me take a gamble on Arsenal. It's a different pick than everyone else because people still have Bamford in the side. And some people have an extra midfielder. So I just went with Lacazette because if Arsenal's going to score, most likely it's going to come from him, either through an assist or a goal. So that's how I'm thinking about this. Here's a fun one. Dean's one. Dean went all in on David Moyes. And this is what it looked like. Jay Links comes in. Thomas Suchek comes out. Vladimir Sufals is differential. And surprise, surprise, Harry Kane as his captain. So
should have captain Lingard and then it would have just been all 4. Let's go.
Yeah. So why are you so late from Jay Links?
Like I said, I was going to do it last week. And I thought, no, it's Leicester. Suchek might. I don't see much happening in that game. I kind of backed Leicester to win against West Ham. And then I watched that West Ham-Leicester game. And I think the time to kind of poke holes in that West Ham team are done. I think you should now start looking at them and saying, if we can try to capitalize from some of those FPL assets for sure. I think they're definitely proving that they have the capability of taking apart a pretty decent team in Leicester, for example. And they got Newcastle this week, so it is a late transfer, but I think it's time to start moving it in and Souček hasn't delivered as much of late, so pretty easy transfer to do there to Lingard. And then Soufal, West Ham's clean sheet record probably isn't that great. They do let in a few easy goals, but he's managed to get an assist in both of the previous 2 games against Wolves and then also against Leicester. So he's definitely running up that right-hand side, and he's only owned by 5.7% of FPL. And yeah, like I said, playing Newcastle, they kind of maybe think Newcastle in a bit of a easier position than they were. They're 6 points ahead, so they might take a little bit of a lackadaisical approach to the game. So West Ham might be able to gain a clean sheet there, and I kind of back this just there. So yeah, it is an all West Ham decision for me, but that's why I think it's time. 8 games to go. They've got 2 tough games in that run, but the rest of them are fairly easy. So try to take as much advantage of that as possible. And then yeah, Kane captain. Like I said before, you have to captain someone that's on a double game week.
Okay, so this week, Leicester play West Brom, Man City play Aston Villa, Chelsea play Brighton, Liverpool play Leeds, Manchester United play Burnley, Arsenal play Fulham. And are there any other captaincy guys that you think someone might score a hat-trick? I'm looking at that Manchester United game. Could that be a Bruno masterclass? I'm also looking at that Chelsea game. Maybe Mason Mount might just come out and score. I saw Kai Havertz doing some good things over the weekend. Is there any out of those teams? Are there any other captaincy options for someone who might not want to go with the grain and follow Kane? Ooh,
I think Jota might be a good call. I mean, they're playing Leeds, and if he plays, I mean, yeah, Leeds put up a good fight against City, but you also kind of look at that and you say that's a once-off. So I think a Liverpool attacker there might be able to do something just because Leeds' defense isn't that great, but kind of a big shot if you take someone other than a Spurs asset. But yeah, there could be a call in there.
I think Mason Mount is a good differential shot against Brighton. Chelsea got the wind in their sails. Any City player, I think City want to come back with a really positive result against Villa. They can't afford to drop points again. Because if City lose and United win, squeaky bum time, guys. It is squeaky bum time. I'm surprised none of us have chosen.
I saw United fans drawing resemblance between this season and 2012 and saying, but if they lose all their games and we win all our games, we can win the league. And you're just kind of going there. How deluded are you? Like, how deluded are you as a fan?
Exceptionally deluded. I would actually hesitate to go with any United players as captain, barring Bruno, because Rashford might not play today. He might not play on Sunday. Yeah.
Because the other thing for Aston Villa that's in Aston Villa's favor is the fact that Manchester City could have another Champions League hangover like they did last weekend. And this time they actually went to Dortmund. They actually weren't playing at home. They were in Germany, and they come out on the weekend and they weren't great. So that's an interesting one because obviously Riyad Mahrez had to come on and try and spruce up the game in Germany in the midweek. So that's another interesting one. I'm still keeping my Villa attacking assets because I kind of feel like maybe something might come up. But yeah, I'm honestly considering letting go of any City defenders right now because of this rotation policy. The deeper they get into Europe and you've got Carabao, you've got all these things. Ruben Diaz might just not play in the Premier League because in the Premier League it's pretty much signed, sealed, delivered. Unless Manchester United want to believe that something else could happen. But
we got nothing else going on, so we may as well.
Are there any other fixtures that you're looking to where you're like, there's a player of mine where I'm hoping to get some points here?
I've got Christensen, so I'm hoping for a Chelsea clean sheet. And it's against Brighton, so, they don't really score that much.
I think the big thing is, over the next few weeks with the teams that have got a decent run in, I think guys should try to focus on improving their defense because I think a lot of the defensive options that we've had previously are kind of now got bad run-ins, like Target, for example. Villa's got a terrible run-in. You also look at something like Leeds, so even Dallas, although Dallas does play that little bit of a midfield role. His running is bad. So you kind of look at those teams, and it might be a time, as bad as I might say, Trent could look as a decent option coming into the rest of the season. But again, it's 7. I think he's still 7 mil on FPL. So don't know if guys want to spend that much on a defender. But if you look at that run, you kind of think,
he's too expensive, though. He's just too expensive. But if you've got the money, you can put him in. The other thing is that next week, Kane and KDB and Son will not be available for the next game week. So that's another wrinkle in all of this. We're going to have to find a way to get rid of our City and Spurs assets because they're playing in that Carabao Cup final. So it's just making it a little bit interesting and intriguing because you have to get Spurs assets in this week. But then, Nick, you're going to have to find a way to let them go. So, yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for. But I think that's where we're going to probably end it now, gents. Thank you very much for joining. To everybody who is listening and watching, thank you very much. Please remember to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Have a great game week. Enjoy the football on. I know Dean's going to enjoy it because Spurs play twice.
Not enjoy it, actually. Boy, you got it wrong. It's the worst week of football in my life. Where's the international break?
Well, that's not coming anytime soon, my friend.
That's all I need.
Thank you very much for joining and everybody else for watching. Have a great week. Have a great time watching all the football. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Cheap Seats for myself, AB, and Dean. Goodbye, good night, and lesale kakahiso.